Oh, hello, YouTube. Today on The Naughty Librarian, we are going over MAYFAIR, which is Season 2, Episode 2. Let's get into all of the horrors that await us. So the episode begins, and Rowan is obviously really still reeling from having to magic away a dead body for Lasher, and she doesn't really know what she's supposed to do next. Like, what do you do after you magic away a body, right? Especially when the perpetrator of the murder is your son, for all intents and purposes here. So she's like, okay, I need to address the issue. So she goes down in the basement where she put him, only to realize, hey, my powers are weaker. And also, oh, there's an open window. Lasher has escaped. I need to go find him. And speaking of Lasher, what's he been up to? Let me tell you. So we get introduced to a new MAYFAIR woman. Her name is Gifford. And she's sitting at home, she's reading her tarot cards, and in particular, she keeps getting the Ten of Swords, which usually represents like defeat, emotional turmoil, those type of things. And also, she hasn't been having like the best relationship with her husband and everything. There's a lot of things going on right here. It's a perfect time for Lasher to come across the house by smell, and he finds Gifford out on the dock, and he approaches her. And the thing with Lasher is that he has this whole, like, mysterious, handsome stranger vibe going on. So Gifford doesn't immediately tell him to just fuck all of the way off, because who are you? You are stranger danger. But she kind of just talks to him for a little bit. And he even mentions that he can remember like swimming in the ocean. But again, he only has like little tiny fragments of his past memories. So she's like intrigued by this, and she invites him back to the house for a drink. So they're back at the house. She starts setting the mood. She sets a little fire, and oops, she burns her finger on the fire grate, and Lasher comes over to examine her wound. And I just wanted to bring it up because it's a little tiny like Easter egg spoiler for like Lasher's actual backstory. Because in Lasher's like I don't know, his real life before all of being a ghost, he had magical abilities, and his main magical ability was the ability to like heal people. And like he was actually really good at it. Like people knew like if you had something that you needed cured, you should go to Lasher. He'll help you. And they would like pay him with milk, because it's a whole fucking thing with the milk. I'm gonna keep bringing it up because in the book it is like unhinged the amount of milk this guy goes through. Realistically, he wants breast milk, but he'll settle for others. Luckily, we're not doing breast milk right now. But anyway, back to the story here. Lasher and Gifford, they are settling in. They're talking for a little bit. And Gifford is actually fairly charmed by Lasher. He's like this handsome stranger who's listening to her. And one thing kind of leads to another, and they get intimate. And I really like the show had a moment of showing like clear consent in this situation. He asks her, is this what you want? And she says yes. Because in the books, we do not get that. The books are a fucking dumpster fire of sexual terror. Because in the book, Lasher is going around bewitching people. And in particular, Gifford, he bewitches her. And it's to the point where she really doesn't know what's going on. She feels like she's in a dream. So therefore, she really can't say no to him before he assaults her. So I'm really happy the show is, changing that from the books, which is so problematic. And they're kind of making him a bit more human in the show, because in the book, he's just like a full-blown date rapist. But that being said, Lasher in the book, at least, he is committing these atrocities, right? But he's not necessarily doing it to be evil and to hurt these women because he enjoys hurting them. Essentially, it's because he just got reborn as a full-grown man baby with a breeding kink. So he just is going off instinct here. I'm not trying to defend this character because, yikes, Lasher is a fucking piece of work. But anyway, back to the show. Gifford, Lasher, they have sex. Looks like it's gonna go okay for a second, and then Lasher goes to get his post-fucking milk, and then he comes back to Gifford painfully hemorrhaging to death. So now Lasher's body count is officially up to 2. So the next morning we go back to Rowan, and she is exhausted. She was out all night looking for Lasher, and she's having some breakfast with JoJo when she gets a call that like, hey, guess what? Gifford's dead. We found the body. So Rowan and JoJo, they go over to Gifford's house, and Rowan, she is just looking around the house and she sees like a large blood stain from like a hemorrhage, just like that other girl literally hours before. Like both murders happened in the same night, by the way. This is quick. On top of that, Rowan sees an empty milk jug in the corner and she's like, oh my gosh, Lasher did this and now I think he's doing it on purpose. And as the coroners take away the body, Rowan starts feeling that her powers are stronger right now, which means that Lasher must be close to her. So she goes off to look for him in the swamp. And Rowan eventually finds him in the swamp. And here's the thing. I don't know why it's all of a sudden nighttime in the swamp, because she was at Gifford's house in the morning in the daylight, and then she goes in the swamp and it's nighttime, and I don't know how time has changed somehow. But anyway, she finds him in the dark in the swamp, and Lasher asks for help because he's like, I'm not trying to hurt these women. They keep dying, and I don't understand why this is happening. So Rowan tries to convince him to come home with her. She's like, I'll help you figure this out. You don't have to keep doing this. But Lasher really doesn't trust her anymore because she did lock him in a basement, and he's like, no, you're manipulating me. You're trying to control me right now. And he just pushes her off of him. And he tries to leave, but Rowan is like, oh hell no. So she starts throwing lightning bolts and branches at him, and there's this big chase scene. Lasher's scared out of his mind. He's running away. So Lasher gets away and he kind of hides, like, I don't know, like in an abandoned building for the night to get some rest. And he has a cut on his hand that's bleeding, and his blood drips on the floor, and you see this little gray bug come over and it like drinks his blood, and then it turns all like vibrant colors and gets healthy and flies away. They don't really have his blood being the healing factor in the books, but they might be going that direction in the show, maybe. And also I know there's gonna be vampire crossovers, so maybe like his blood has like exponential healing properties. That's what I think they're gonna go with it. I don't know. It just was very conspicuously put in, so I feel like it's gonna be foreshadowing. Rowan goes back to the MAYFAIR house to regroup because as try as she might, she wasn't able to kill Lasher. And here's the thing. She is still being haunted by Millie, the house ghost here. And like Millie's like, oh, bless your heart. You're not trying to kill him because you need to stop pretending like you're trying to defend this family. You're not. You're getting goosebumps from all the new powers you got from him, okay? Stop trying to pretend like this is anything other than it is. So she's kind of letting Rowan have it. And frankly, that's kind of Rowan's big conundrum when it comes to Lasher. Even in the books, like, she loathes Lasher. She really hates him and she wants to stop him, but the other side of the coin is he makes her powerful. And she's kind of also addicted to that and also wants to be able to control him. She wants to learn all the secrets. So she's very conflicted about things. She knows what's right, but it's not necessarily what she wants to do. But enough of Rowan for right now. Let's check in with some other characters. Because meanwhile, while all this is happening, Cyprian, he's still kind of following Moira, and he's hoping to find like the right moment to talk to her. And Moira is super frustrated with her home life. Her mother, Alicia, is the drunk of all drunks, okay? And her sister's dead, and she has been constantly trying to be Alicia's parent in every situation. And that's actually very accurate to how the relationship between like Alicia and Mona in the book was, which all leads up to her emotional state being in the perfect moment for Cyprian to finally approach her. And he does while she's out visiting some friends at a bar. And immediately she's like, oh, you're like Talamasca, right? She pegs him for it immediately because he has shielding in his mind so she can't hear his thoughts. And she's like, listen, bro, I don't care what you're selling. I'm not buying it. We don't fuck with the Talamasca. But Cyprian is desperate for her help. So he drops his mental shield and he allows her to like read his true intentions, that he wants to save Rowan and destroy Lasher. And since Moira is not on Team Lasher, she's like, all right, I'll hear you out. And although I don't think Moira necessarily has agreed to help Cyprian, she at least doesn't hate him on sight. So, you know, baby steps here. They're growing trust in their relationship. And also, they kind of really understand each other very well because Cyprian is desperate to help Rowan, who is someone that doesn't want help. The same way Moira is desperate to help her mother, Alicia, who also doesn't want help. So they're kind of finding some common ground here, besides the whole fact that they hate Lasher and want him dead. Speak of the devil, Lasher, what's he been up to during all of this? He now has a body count of 2. Well, Lasher, he is still on the prowl for more Mayfair women, and he finds himself at Moira's house while everyone is out. And Alicia's there, drunk as usual, and she knows Lasher because she and Deirdre were childhood friends. So they would have sleepovers, and Lasher would come and he would tell them stories about all of like his adventures with the past Mayfair witches. And Alicia mentions a bunch of different like events here, so I'll just like break it down. Like she mentions coming to New Orleans, and that would be Marie Claudette because she was the first Mayfair to come to New Orleans. She mentions all of the adventures in Haiti because a lot of the Mayfairs lived in Haiti for a long time. Like, let's be real, they owned a plantation, okay? That's what they were doing in Haiti. But there's 3 generations of Mayfairs there, which is Charlotte, Jean-Louise, and Angelique. And then she even mentions Antha, who would be Rowan's grandmother, who ran away to the East Village in New York. And he also mentions all of the Julian adventures, which I'm sure we're going to get into later in the season. But I figured I'd break that down because she just throws out a bunch of like random things. But anyway, during all of this, Lasher, he's getting a smellgasm off of Alicia. So one thing leads to another. They get intimate. And wouldn't you know, the same exact thing happens to Alicia as all the others, and she hemorrhages and dies. And like, spoiler alert, there's only really 2 Mayfair women eventually that Lasher could successfully mate with, one of which is Rowan. And in the books, Rowan has run away with Lasher. No one can find Rowan. No one knows where she is for most of the book. And Lasher, well, he like impregnates her multiple times and she miscarries, but she doesn't die from it. So he just keeps on trying till a pregnancy sticks. So yeah, Rowan gets pregnant with Lasher's baby, and then she also gave birth to him. But this is the Mayfairs, so really that's business as usual here. And the only other likely candidate for a successful mate for Lasher would be Mona Mayfair in the books, but in the show we have renamed her Moira Mayfair. So there's something going to happen with that probably, because Moira would also be compatible. But we're not there yet in the show. I don't even know if that's going to happen in the show. Time will tell. But back to Moira, our Mona stand-in. She comes home. She finds her mother dead, and she doesn't know what to do. The only person she could really call to help is Cyprian. So she calls him. He shows up right away, and he uses his magical ability to see what happened to Alicia, and he finds out that it was Lasher who was the one who killed her. In the meantime, while Lasher was off with Alicia, what was Rowan doing? Well, she was using all of her newfound powers from Lasher to like conjure a storm to drown out all the scent of the Mayfair women so Lasher can't find them. Which just obviously would not work at all. Like, is she gonna make it rain inside of houses to drown out like all the Mayfair women, even ones she doesn't know exists? Like, she just making it rain. Like, it's not gonna do anything. It's a useless idea to try to stop Lasher. But it does kind of go into Rowan's lackluster attempts to try to stop him because she's enjoying all of the magic she has. And like, this new ability kind of checks with like Lasher, because in the books, Lasher does conjure storms. In particular, he was really trying to save a witch named Deborah back in the day by like causing a massive storm. When the Mayfair witches die, usually there's a storm. So like, it all kind of checks out as far as abilities go here. So Rowan successfully conjures a storm, and she is very excited by this. She's just standing there in rainy time ecstasy and gets interrupted by Larkin, of all people, who randomly just came all of the way to New Orleans to insert himself into Rowan's business without an invitation. Like, this is a red flag, am I right? Like, this is so weird, because apparently what had happened is that Larkin, he ran the genetic sequencing on the sample, and it came up with an error that the sample is impossible because it has 4 extra chromosomes that no known species possess. However, all of this information could have been sent in an email. There's no reason for Larkin to just show up. It's obvious that Larkin actually has like some romantic feelings for Rowan. Maybe they had a past relationship. And he's like, hey, do you want to come back to my hotel room? We can like talk about this more. I could do more research. And I don't know, Rowan's about to maybe say yes here when she gets another call and she finds out that, Alicia's dead. And also Cyprian and the Talamasca are now involved. So shit, things are getting real. So Rowan is now at the bottom of the barrel of resources she needs in order to stop Lasher. So she's gonna have to go to the last person she ever wants to go to, which is Cortland. So Rowan turned Cortland into a statue at the end of season 1. He is still a statue right now. And whilst in statue form, his consciousness seems to be awake. However, it is trapped in a nightmare state. In particular, he is being abused by his father, Julian MAYFAIR. And Julian keeps telling Cortland that you're a weak-willed, tiny little man, and you need to get out of the way for what needs to be done. Like, he really doesn't like his son at all. And, like, let's be real, no one likes Cortland. He's the fucking worst. Cortland is just trying so hard to get daddy's approval, and, like, things get, like, out of hand. This is a pun on purpose, because he literally chops off his hand to feed to his father. And Julian's like, yum, 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 arm, delicious. Like, things get wild in this dream state, okay? But anyway, Rowan needs him, so she wakes him up. He comes out of statue form, and she's like, listen up, fuckwit. I don't like you. I don't want your fucking apologies. I don't care if you feel, quote, remorse, because no, you fucking don't. So this is what you're gonna do. You work for me now, and you only have one job, okay? That is to gather all the MAYFAIRs together. I don't care how you do it, because you don't have any other use to me, because you apparently know fuck all about Lasher's plan. So Rowan and Cortland go off to start calling MAYFAIRs. However, we kind of fall back into the dream world, which might actually be a real place, because Julian still seems conscious in it. So what I am thinking is that Julian was purposely keeping Cortland's conscious, and Julian wants Cortland to suffer because, frankly, he wants to help Lasher succeed for his own selfish need for power. So now that Cortland is officially pulled out of Dreamland, Julian decides it's time for him to finally get back into the fight, step in officially to help stop Lasher once and for all. I really want to get into Julian's backstory here, but I know we're going to go over it in a future episode, so I'm going to hold off. But I will say, Julian MAYFAIR is like a super important character in the MAYFAIR saga. I talked about him a little bit last week in episode 1. His sister Catherine was the official designee for like that generation, but she was never particularly magically gifted. However, ever since Julian was a very little boy, he was very magically gifted. So unofficially, he was the real MAYFAIR witch of that generation, and the only male MAYFAIR witch. And he was also the first MAYFAIR to get real fucking suspicious of Lasher. And he makes a point of actually finding out the truth of Lasher, what he's doing, what his endgame is, and then actively trying to stop him. So Julian is very important. I'm not gonna say he's a good person, because Julian did awful terrible things as well, but this is what we got. That's where the episode ends. I think it was a good end for the episode. Just a little, ooh, something's coming. So, yeah, I don't know. I like the changes that they're making from the book, because the book is just sexual terror, and this time they're making it sexual terror, but not in a horribly offensive way, if that makes sense, I guess. So, I don't know. I appreciate the changes in, like, the storytelling. Like, I'm pretty sure I know where things are gonna go, especially with the different characters. There's certain things I want to see happen, because a lot happens at the end of Lasher. Like, a fucking lot happens. So, we shall see. But yeah, I don't know. I'm holding back some spoilers. because I don't want to spoil too much too soon. But anyway, let me know in the comments down below, what did you think about this episode? Where do you think things are going for the rest of the season? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. If you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And if you want cool exclusive content, including early access to videos and a book club, you can consider becoming a channel member or a patron. Links for that are in the description down below. And on that note, I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.